Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Actually, the highlight for me wasn't even Tim Raines. The highlight for me was booing Bud Selig.
Oh my God, you booed him so loud. You know, sometimes there's boos, right? You know, you can boo people. You've been at sporting events where people get booed, right? Mm-hmm. You've done the booing, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes. But the booing that you gave Selig was so passionate. It was so angry, you know?
Because it was like 20 years worth of booing. Well, I did tell you on our last episode that I may get kicked out.
Yeah, you could have got arrested right there.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Josh?
Hey, Skip, how's it going?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. Where are you?
My house? Where are you?
Well, where's your house, though?
Montreal. Okay. Suburbia.
I'm in my condo in Toronto.
Great. How is it in Toronto? Hot?
It's very hot. I love it.
Yeah, finally we got the hot weather here the last couple of days. So
yeah, it's been great.
Took till August for summer to arrive.
Actually, no, July was good.
Yeah.
But it's rained every day. It rains every day here. Anyway, enough about that.
So we were busy in Cooperstown and we didn't really have a chance to actually talk about. We talked about our love of baseball. We didn't talk about actual baseball.
No, and this past weekend, while we were in Cooperstown, was also the trade deadline for Major League Baseball. So a lot of stuff happened. Right,
all the deals were going down, while we were there.
Right, and so now, if you weren't sure if your favorite team was a contender, a buyer or a seller. Well, now you know, because the buyers bought and the sellers sold.
Right.
And so if your team was one of the sellers, you're basically waiting until next year now.
So we're going to talk about the teams that made big impacts, big acquisitions, like the Yankees and the Dodgers, right? Mm-hmm. And even a little bit the Astros. But what's the mood in Toronto with the Jays right now?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is why I wanted to discuss this. I mean, there were still some fans up until a week ago who were holding out hope that the Jays could still make the playoffs. I said to you a few weeks ago,
a month ago,
that even though I think they were 7.5 games out at the time that we were having this conversation, and 7.5, the truth is, in 2 months is doable. But because there were so many teams they had to pass, I said, you know what? It's just not happening for the Jays this year. They might as well just unload any potential free agents or unload any of their, aging players that aren't going to be useful next year, because really they're just playing for next year now. That's what I thought.
I mean, they are only 5.5 games out, but they're 6 games under 500, and they don't seem to have, there's nothing telling you that they're going to get over 500. There's no signs of life for this team, right?
And the reason they're only 5.5 out is because after I told you that they didn't have a shot, they went and beat the Oakland A's 4 straight games.
Right, the Oakland A's, right?
Right, which makes their record look a lot better than it was, because you win 4 in a row, it makes your record look much better. But again, it's the Oakland A's.
Right.
So,
did you hear Buster Olney on ESPN Radio? He was pretty hard on the Jays, and he was grading all the teams and what they did, and he gave them a D- or something.
Well, I think I agree with him to a certain extent, because I mean, okay, they traded Liriano, which I think was a good thing, and they traded Joe Smith, who, whatever, he's a free agent at the end of the year.
Right.
But they didn't unload Jose Bautista, which that could be because either A, nobody wanted him, or B, he wouldn't waive his no trade clause. But, it would have been nice if they could get something for him, even a draft pick.
Right.
Because I mean, he's having an awful year, and if I'm the general manager of the Blue Jays, I don't want this guy on my team next season.
Do you think it's a business decision in that, if they do trade him, even if it was for a bag of balls, the fans will stop coming because it's they've really officially thrown in the towel? They gave up Liriano, but that's whatever, But Bautista, it's fans
I don't know. I think if you're an educated fan, you would want him also not to be on the team next year.
I agree.
Because sure, he's had a great career with the Jays since he got there, and he's done so much for the team. But he's past his prime now, and if you want to win next year, you need to get younger.
Right.
So
No, I agree. I think most educated fans would agree with you. But, when you have 40,000 fans there, that's not always educated fans. Like, they want to still sell tickets. That's what...
Right. And the truth of the matter is a lot of the tickets for the next couple of months have already been purchased.
Yes, that's right.
Now, whether people actually show up and use their tickets or not, that remains to be seen. But a lot of them have already been purchased. Other moves I think the Jays should have tried to make.
Right.
I would have tried to maybe deal Kendrys Morales. A nice player, and he's having a very good season, or let's say a good season. But again, the team needs to get younger.
Do you think they were going to try to deal Tulowitzki and then he got hurt on that Saturday?
I don't know, but you know what? I would keep Tulowitzki because he's still under contract for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I actually, you need a good shortstop. Yes, he gets injured every year, but you live with that with Tulowitzki in my mind.
Okay.
I would have tried to trade Morales. I would have tried to trade Pierce. I would have tried to trade Justin Smoke, who was an all-star, I know. But if you think, listen, last year, Michael Saunders was an all-star, and they didn't re-sign him, maybe because they didn't like the second half that he had, or maybe because they thought last year was a flash in the pan. If you thought Michael Saunders was a flash in the pan last year, I'm telling you, Justin Smoke is exactly the same thing. There's no way he's going to duplicate these numbers next year. And if you could get something from him now while he's hot, then do it.
Right.
And I realize that would leave your team depleted for the rest of this season. But again, you're playing for next year. So why does it matter? Take a look at some young guys that you have in AAA.
Right. I think it makes sense. So, sticking with the NL East, the Yankees made a big splash with Sonny Gray. He's a good pitcher, and I feel like the Yankees are going for it, right?
They're definitely going for it, but this is what bothers me about that trade. Great trade for the Yankees. Great trade.
Yeah. My one of our Twitter followers, who's a huge Yankees fan, he has the Twitter account called Deep to Left, number 2. So if you're a Yankees fan, I highly recommend you give him a follow. He was highly in favor of the trade.
For sure, and you know why? Because Sonny Gray isn't even a free agent this offseason.
No, it was a good acquisition, right?
Why are the Oakland Athletics trading away a guy who's still on the team for not just next year, but the year after?
Yeah, they got 2 good prospects, and I guess they figure what they got is better, but...
I see, this is what I don't understand. I get it if he's a free agent, in October, November, whatever, you want to unload him and get something for him, but he's not. Yeah. So I think the Oakland A's made a mistake.
Yeah, I think so too.
My opinion.
Who do you give the edge to right now in the NL East, the Red Sox or the Yankees? It's like they're practically tied, right?
Well, it's funny. If you'd asked me this question 24 hours ago, I would have said the Yankees for sure because they made moves. The Red Sox made some minor moves, but the Red Sox are in a bit of a tailspin. I still think they're going to make the playoffs, but the Yankees made the bigger moves, and they're hotter right now. And the Red Sox just put Dustin Pedroia, the heart and soul of the team, on the DL. David Price is on the DL. So the Red Sox are going the wrong way. However, I don't know if you saw what happened in the Red Sox game last night. It was a crazy game against Cleveland. It went back and forth. And I think in the 8th inning, the Red Sox had a 2-run lead, which they blew. They gave up a run in the 8th and a run in the 9th off supposedly their 2 best relief pitchers. One of them was Kimbrel.
He blew it. Yeah.
So he blew it in the top of the 9th.
But then they came back with their own victory, right?
Cleveland took the lead in the top of the 9th to make it 10-9. And then in the bottom of the 9th, the Red Sox have this crazy inning where there's 2 outs and... there's a man on first, and I think the batter was Moreland, the first baseman, or maybe he was DHing. I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
He strikes out to end the game. However, the catcher drops the ball, and it goes all the way to the backstop, and Moreland makes it to first base with no problem.
Right.
So the game should have been over, and now it's first and second with 2 outs.
And the next guy homers, no?
Yeah. and they win the game. So, that kind of a win can propel your team to do a lot of good in the next few days, weeks, and months.
It would be a pretty good ALCS, right? Cleveland, Boston.
That would be a good ALCS.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Bill Simmons, he's the biggest Red Sox fan out there, right?
Right.
And he tweeted this week saying, is the Red Sox management the only people out there that actually think this team has a chance? He feels that this team is not that good. Like he doesn't have a lot of faith in them, and I think he's kind of waiting for the losing streak to come. But I guess we'll see.
Well, I mean, they've been in first place all season up until about a week ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't say that they don't have a good enough team to win.
They have a well-balanced team. You know, if David Price would remember how to pitch, like...
Right. I mean, they have some injuries now, Price and Pedroia, and I don't know who else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, any team loses, one of their top pitchers and one of their best hitters in the lineup, that's going to affect any team.
Of course.
Do they have depth? I mean, they called up that guy Devers from AAA.
Yeah, he had a big impact right away, right?
Yeah, he's
hitting everything that moves right now.
So, I mean, good for them. But I still think the Red Sox are going to make the playoffs.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
And then now moving to the National League, the big acquisition was the Dodgers, like as if they need like more help. They're like, 30 games over 500.
Yeah, and then they acquire possibly the best starting pitcher that was available.
Yeah, Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish, who's the one who I predicted to be the Cy Young winner in the American League in our preseason show.
Well, I guess that won't happen now.
No, but I mean, he's having a decent year, but he's not having a great year. I mean, his ERA's up over 4.
But now any of his stats won't count for the American League anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still a quality starter, like and a guy that in a big game could give you a big game, right? Like in an important game could give you a big outing, right?
For sure. And with the Dodgers losing Clayton Kershaw, I don't know how long he's going to be out.
Well, they're not sure. They say he's coming back soon, but it's his back, right? And Kershaw's had this nagging back injury for the last couple of years. So, if Kershaw's not like 100% healthy going into the playoffs, like all of a sudden this like juggernaut Dodgers team is looking a little bit vulnerable. So Darvish is a little bit insurance for that, because I don't know. Can Rich Hill and who's the other guy they have?
Alex
Wood. Can these guys keep doing what they're doing? Like, I don't know.
I have no idea. But the frustrating thing about being a baseball fan is that it doesn't matter if you're 30 games over 500 or 10 games over 500 or whatever it is, because once you make the playoffs, it's a brand new ball game.
Right.
Everyone starts at zero.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like the playoff spots look kind of locked in the National League. You have the Nationals for sure going to win the East, and you have the Dodgers for sure going to win the West.
Right.
And you don't know for sure what's going to happen in the Central. I mean, the Cubs have taken a step forward since the All-Star break, and they certainly are playing a lot more like the Cubs that everyone expected. Right. So, I mean, let's say the Cubs are going to win the Central, or there's going to be someone that's going to be in the playoffs from the Central, and that's it. But the 2 wildcard teams are going to come from the West, right? It's the Rockies and the
Diamondbacks.
And the Diamondbacks, right? They're both having great years, the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. So, I don't know. If I'm the Dodgers and you have to play the D-backs in a playoff series, I don't know how comfortable I am. They're both very good teams.
Yeah. First of all, a wild card game, it's a one-game thing. Anything can happen. You know that.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I misspoke, actually. The Red Sox are ahead of the Yankees in the standings right now.
Well, I mean, it's been teetering by like half a game, one game here, half a game there. It changes every day,
Right.
So, yeah.
But last time we looked at the standings on our show, Minnesota was in first place in the Central, I think, and now they're in third.
Right, and Milwaukee was first place in the NL Central.
Correct, and now they're second.
Yeah, the Kansas City Royals have caught fire, and they've implicated themselves in the wild card race, if not the division race in the Central. So,
agreed.
Yeah, like I'm a huge fan of the Royals.
Are you?
Well, I like this Royals team of the last 4 years. I really like the team that made it to the World Series and won the World Series. I think the makeup of the team is so strong. Like the way the team is constructed, with good starters, an incredibly deep bullpen. I'm a huge fan of Wade Davis, who's on the Cubs now, but he was on the Royals. Mm-hmm. And I just love Lorenzo Cain and Hosmer. I think Hosmer is the biggest big game hitter, you look at his stats and you're like, yeah, he's good, but when you get him to a playoff series and you watch this guy hit, I mean, he just grinds out the at-bat. Their team, they just grind it out at bats, taking pitches, waiting for the right pitch to hit, wearing down the opposing starter, and getting hit after hit after hit after hit. So I just like their approach as a team.
Okay.
And I think Lorenzo Cain is one of the greatest names in all of baseball history. It's Lorenzo Cain. It's like he's like either the starting center fielder for the Royals or he's like some business mogul on Days of Our Lives, right? Like he's out of a soap opera. Lorenzo Cain. What kind of name is that?
That's true.
So I posted a Twitter poll on if we just to touch on some of the other trades. What was the biggest impact trade so far in Major League Baseball? Darvish to the Dodgers, Gray to the Yankees, Lucroy to the Rockies, or Liriano to the Astros. And I actually got 25 answers, which is pretty hot.
26.
Yeah. Oh, 26. Okay. 40% Darvish, 40% Gray was an agreement. Like both of those were ahead in the poll, and Lucroy and Liriano were way back. But like I said, like the Rockies think that they have a chance, so they went out and got Lucroy, who's a pretty good catcher.
An underrated trade that we haven't talked about was the Washington Nationals acquired Brandon Kinsler, a closer from the Twins.
They got to try anything.
Well, I mean, they needed a closer, and actually they got an all-star closer. So We'll see how it goes for this guy in Washington. But pretty much anybody that the Nationals have tried as their closer in the last, 4 or 5 years hasn't worked out.
There's a curse. There's like some kind of curse on their closers.
It's like goaltenders in Philadelphia.
Because right now, the way the Nationals are constructed, it's like goaltenders in Philadelphia. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
The way their team is constructed, it's like the opposite of how most of the really successful teams of the last 10 years. Like if you look at some of the really successful teams, a lot of them are based on extremely deep bullpens, not just a closer, but like guys that you can bring in and just shut the game down, right? 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning, lefties, righties, all kinds of live arms. And yes, while they may have acquired a closer, but I don't know. Their bullpen is so thin, and playoff games are so close. Like you need arms.
Yes, but they got two arms from Oakland a couple of weeks ago.
No, I know they're stockpiling.
So now they have what they think are their 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guys.
Yeah, I don't know if I would trust that guy Doolittle. Can you trust the guy named Doolittle?
Well, I guess you could. Maybe not in the 9th, but in the 8th you might be able to.
I guess, yeah.
The truth is the Nationals have bigger problems now because Max Scherzer left to start after an inning yesterday. So.
Right. If he's injured, they're finished because Strasburg is like, could be out for the season at any moment.
Right.
So his next pitch is always a threat that is his last pitch.
By the way, a team that I think you were mentioning how the Jays got a D or D- rating for their acquisitions or lack thereof at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Another team that I think didn't do so well at the trade deadline was the Houston Astros.
Yeah,
you see the Dodgers, who had the best record in baseball, acquire Yu Darvish.
Right.
The Astros, who have the second best record in baseball, didn't do much. They got Liriano. Okay, that's fine. But I don't know what else they did.
But do you think it's because the Astros are looking at it from a different angle as these big market teams like the Dodgers? The Dodgers have the highest payroll by far, and they don't care who they get, and they don't care who they give up. So they are not so protective of their prospects because they just figure they're going to sign free agents. Whereas a team like the Astros, who, 3 or 4 short years ago was the worst team in baseball, right? By far. They think 5 years ago they lost 100 games like 3 years in a row.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely different in Houston than it is in LA.
Yeah.
The truth is, I don't mean the salary thing doesn't really matter because if you're going to acquire a guy, even if he's the highest paid guy in the majors, he's going to be gone at the end of the season in theory if he's a free agent. So you don't have to pay him next year. But to give up your prospects, I get it. They didn't want to give up any of their prospects, and I understand why, because look at this great organization that they've built.
Right. Their team is so good now, and it's built on all the prospects that have all come of age. So I think they're really they're hesitant to make that move. If let's say they make it to the playoffs this year, right? Which they will. And they make it to the World Series, or whatever happens, but they don't win the World Series. Maybe next year they're going to say, you know what? At the trade deadline, they're going to go make a splash because they're just going to say, we're really going to go all out, But I think they want to give their group that they have a chance, and let them be.
I guess. And look, if they think they do have the best record in the American League, so in theory,
they're doing something right.
They should be able to get to the World Series without having to make any additions to their team.
Right. I still think they're
in theory.
I feel they are. The American League playoffs are going to be interesting. Houston and the Red Sox and the Yankees and Cleveland. You got some those are all interesting teams to watch, right? I can't, like, no matter how the series, the permutations of the series come out and who faces who, like, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
The baseball playoffs, in my mind, are usually almost always good.
Yeah.
And, we started our show last year in October. The first episode wasn't released until November, but we started our show, at least recording it in October, because October is such a crazy, busy time of the year in sports.
Oh, I mean, the baseball playoffs are the incredible 6 weeks of baseball. They're magical. Like, for me, it's incredible. And then, of course, October, you have the hockey starting and the NFL in full swing, right? It's great, so.
Now, obviously, it's still possible to make trades. In baseball, if a guy clears waivers, he can still be traded. And I think today the Tigers put Verlander on waivers.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, now, whether he clears waivers or not remains to be seen.
Oh, I want to tell you something about Justin Verlander.
Is it about his wife?
Yes.
Okay.
So I follow her on Twitter and Instagram.
As everybody should.
Kate Upton. You should follow her.
Yes.
So while we were in Cooperstown, she was in Montreal.
Are you kidding?
She was doing something with that Formula One E race, the electronic cars. Mm-hmm. She was there as a sponsor or a publicity around that Formula One E series race.
You shouldn't have gone to Cooperstown.
I know. I was so mad.
You should have stayed in Montreal.
Like, the last thing I would have done, even if I was in Montreal, was go to that electronic car race.
You shouldn't have gone. #fail.
#fail. We're going to tweet out #fail like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Great talking to you.
Okay, talk to you later.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.